Final hour OverDrive continues, brought to you by FanDuel, bringing you everything from the opening line of the final score. Our best bets later in the hour. We still have our picks for the RBC Heritage as well. Keep it sensible, probably a 5-pack, possibly a 6-pack, maybe a 7-pack tops. We'll get to that later this hour. And Mark Masters will join us from Tampa, where Sheldon Keefe has been speaking, and he was asked for an update on Max Domi, Calle Jarnkrok, and Bobby McMahon, and if they're making progress in the outlook for Game 1. And Keefe's response was, quote, "I would say all three are possibilities," end quote. So that's
aren't we at a
playoff
point where this
playoff
stuff's
speak.
just, I know, but like, isn't there a way, or like, aren't we beyond this stuff? Like, you're not going to say, well, the guy's got an elbow problem, where the other guy and the other team's going to say, I'm going to take aim at that elbow, but can you say whether a guy's playing or not? Like, it's not going to affect anything.
Yeah, I'm a little bit surprised at the idea that Domi wouldn't be. He was on the ice today. Masters tweeting out, first time he has seen Max on the ice since Saturday's game.
I would bet millions that Max Domi would have his jersey on Saturday night.
Yeah, I would too. There's no way he's missing that game if he's back skating. And these always felt like maintenance games. Give him the 2 games off in Florida. Jarnkrok is, it's a knuckle, I believe, right, or a finger. Like there's generally a pretty finite timeline on that. It's just a matter of how quickly he can grip his stick, and once he can and make a pass and shoot the puck, he's playing like that. Right. And they should probably know on Wednesday how close it is, considering Game 1 is on Saturday. It's McMahon that we don't know about. Like, McMahon doesn't seem nearly as likely he's prepared to play in Game 1, but you never know. Guys play through injuries. Playoffs come. If he can give, he wants to be in there. He's never played in the Stanley Cup playoffs, right? Like, this guy, he's been a Marley up until 3 months ago, and now he's got a new contract. He's a big part of this team and their identity and how they've been playing down the stretch. And I was looking forward to seeing McMahon play, and I really hope he gets into the lineup because it's going to be a big one. It's go time. Leafs Bruins, gear up, man. Saturday night. Be ready for it.
Well, and who comes in, who comes out? Like, that's the question mark. Like, does Ryan Reeves start, or is it not? Is it maybe?
I'd start him. I'd start him in the playoffs, guys. Like, I'd put him out there to say, go out there and cause havoc. Get on the forecheck, move your feet. The difference between his skating at the beginning of the year, and I really don't know why that was, but he looks like he's moving a lot better out there. I'd put him out there and say, just work your ass off, finish your hits, and cause momentum, or try to change the momentum. Mm-hmm. See what happens.
I think
he's got
he'll
options
be
to do.
Yep.
Yeah,
I think he'll play.
I don't know if he'll play every game, but I think he plays, which probably. I think I've changed my opinion on that because I think 2 months ago we all would have agreed he wasn't even part of the plan.
And by the way, Noodles, it's the dumbest transactions in hockey. You get 4-0 dummied, and a fourth-line player comes out for another guy. It's like, oh, wow. I used to love that one. It's like, we just got dominated, and you're going to switch a guy in the left wing in the fourth line for another guy? Give me a break.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see what happens, further down the lineup with Jarnkrok returning. If McMahon's not playing and Jarnkrok returns, Jarnkrok will take his spot. In fact,
I don't think McMahon is like he might not be ready for the start of this series.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's what Dregs was saying an hour ago. Like, it doesn't seem nearly as likely that he's going to be ready. He's not on the ice. Like, Jarnkrok can skate. It's not that he's not prepared in terms of being in shape. It's simply just passing the test in terms of his hand. But, Domi's going to play. McMahon's a different story. So, yeah, I would guess Reeves will play. I think defensively, Edmondson's going to play. But is he healthy is a very different story. I don't know. But, yeah, we'll see what comes of it between now and Saturday night. And then the goaltending situation. Martin Jones is going to get the start tonight. Sounds like Samsonov, they're just going to give a week off. And we'll see him Game 1 in Boston. And that's going to be a massive storyline, is what happens in net. Because if you don't have goaltending, you can't win.
Dude,
right?
That's why I did a thing last night. Like, 5 factors for the Leafs. I'm going to goaltending number 1 over the Stars, over anything. Coaching, all of it. Because it's just such an important factor. If you don't have a guy to make the – I don't know if you've come up with a formula for it, Noodles, like the standard saves and then – maybe a couple a game that are just outrageous that you're not supposed to save. Like that's how you win.
That's that stat. That's goals saved above expectation. That's what it is. Is you basically you got to stop the ones that you should and maybe a couple that you shouldn't, and you want to be on the positive side. And it is going to come down. We've said it a million times. Like, your goal scorers can score a bunch of goals. If you can't defend in the playoffs, if you can't keep the puck out of the net, I don't think you have a chance. And that's, you've got to play tight playoff hockey, and you have to have your big guys step up at critical times. But your goaltenders have to be a big part of that formula. That's it.
Absolutely. And if it's not going to be Samsonov, it better be Wall. If it's not Wall, it better be Jones. If it's not Jones, it better be Matt Murray. Like, it better be somebody that's prepared to play. And listen, there's questions in Boston about who they should start. Swayman's 3-0 against the Leafs, and his numbers have been unreal this year. Yet, Montgomery is an Ullmark guy. Doesn't mean he doesn't like Swayman. He does, clearly, but Ullmark seems to be his guy. Seems like Ullmark could start Game 1. All right, more on Leafs Tampa and Leafs Boston eventually come Game 1 this weekend. Mark Masters from Tampa later in the hour. Our RBC pick still to come, RBC Heritage Open. Also, we'll get to our best bets. But the Raptors, their season obviously came and went. They finished with a record of 25-57. There were a number of storylines that came out of the year. Probably the most peculiar one would be the Jontay Porter story. And it was released today. The NBA's banned him. He's, I assume, banned for life. Maybe he can try to get in at some point, but what are the chances? He was a borderline NBA player anyway, but he's done.
He's done forever.
He's finished. And obviously they concluded in their investigation he was betting on himself. He was betting on games. He was putting money up. It was really damning.
Wasn't it, Hazy?
What's that?
He's betting on Raptors losses, wasn't he?
Well, that's what is crazy about this report, is that he bet on the Raptors to lose. Jeez. And he's a Raptor. Do you know terrible. How difficult that is to digest? Say what you want to get about Pete Rose. Rose always said, I bet that we'd win. I was always a believer we'd win.
So greasy, though.
It's equal.
For Pete to say that and think it's okay.
It's worse to bet on a loss. I'm
all
sorry.
Day
it's
long.
Worse to bet on a loss.
I'll take Pete Rose betting on his team to win all day over Porter said, man,
let's get him in the hall. Let's get him in the hall.
Let's get Pete Rose in the hall. Here's Josh Lewenberg, our Raptor reporter. You've been up close and personal all year. It's been a tough year, Josh, but how do you put this into perspective? Porter banned for life and betting on the Raptors to lose.
Yeah, I mean, and it happened, as you guys alluded to, at a point at the season where it's like, okay, we've seen just about everything now. Nothing else could go wrong. And then I remember being in the arena. It was before a game against Brooklyn and looking down at my phone and seeing Jontay Porter under investigation for betting irregularities. And I was like, okay, maybe I haven't seen everything just yet. This is a strange one. And I mean, given the news today and what Porter, it's one thing to be alleged of what he was accused of, but to be essentially found guilty under the NBA's investigation of more than we even thought. Because remember in the initial report, it was just that, okay, it sort of be a weird coincidence where there was all sorts of action on Porter's over-unders in the games where he also happened to leave early due to unreported injuries and illnesses, but now for there to be confirmation that not only was he influencing things by leaving games early, but he was also directly betting on games, which look like you could find some gray area in the NBA's betting rules, but the one thing they're very clear about is you can bet on Major League Baseball, you can bet on football, you can bet on hockey if you're an NBA player. You cannot bet on professional basketball games, and from the sounds of it, Jontay Porter was pretty busy doing that during his time with the Raptors. So, yeah, I mean, it's pretty hard to argue that this punishment was anything other than fair and justified. It is also disturbing in a number of ways, but specifically if we're going to talk about this situation, and this is why I was so surprised by it at the time. I've gotten a chance to talk to Jontay a few times. My impression, I was super impressed. I thought, okay, this guy is mature, he's thoughtful, smart guy, and more than that is his story was really impressive. A guy that had worked his way back from numerous knee injuries that nearly ended his career to finally have a shot in the NBA. I wrote a story about him in January, and he told me this is an opportunity that people would die for, that I'm so lucky to have. So it's crazy for somebody to risk all of that, and what could have been like, he wasn't going to have a long and a great NBA career, but he's a guy that could have stuck around a little bit. To risk all of that for this doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but at the same time, gambling, like any other addiction, there's no rhyme or reason. You can't use logic or justification sometimes. So while, yes, the punishment fits the crime, I also hope he gets the help that he needs after all of this.
Jay Lee, what did you make of Masai's comments, his postseason comments? Where do you think his mindset is right now? Because he seems like the closer type of guy where he's a big deal, he's a big shot, and he can come in and put an organization over the top. Like, I know he knows what's in front of him because he mentioned what it possibly could take. Do you think he actually has the stomach for that?
Yeah, that was the wording that I was going to use too, is does he have the stomach for it? He's preached patience for 10 years now. And they, to their credit, like that Ujiri-led front office, they've been patient for better or for worse. But I will just say, like, it's a whole lot easier to be patient with a perennial playoff team, a team that's winning north of 50 games every year, because remember, up until very recently, that's been the case, than to do it in a situation here where, like, it could get a whole lot worse before it gets better. And for a guy who, yeah, he's patient, but he also has that competitive fire burning inside of him. He really wants to win. And now with the pressures of potentially changing an uncertain MLSE board, certainly a new boss at the top, and just the pressures that come with winning in professional sports in general, will he be patient with this process? It's interesting because the Raptors have been so reluctant to rebuild. They didn't want this. Like, they were pretty clear whether other people thought they should go down this path or not. They wanted Fred VanVleet to come back. They wanted to eventually re-sign Siakam and Anunoby, albeit at their price and not Siakam's price and Anunoby's price, but they didn't want to hit the reset button. Now that they have, and arguably a year later than they should have, they need to see this process through. It can't be rushed because the ramifications of that could be catastrophic for the long-term health of this team in the sense that, like, let's talk about next season, where I think it's pretty clear that at full strength, as currently constructed, this team is far better than the 2-19 record they closed the year with. They're not good enough to be a playoff team, but I think, like, if everything breaks the right way next year, they could squeeze into the play-in, but, like, why? Why would they want that when they were an average team before deciding to break this whole thing up? That's not what they're aspiring to. So the question now becomes, and this is the big question going to the offseason, what do you do about that? If they ultimately make the decision to tank next year, and honestly, I think that they should, especially if they lose this top 6 protected pick for this season, if they really decide, all right, in order to really push this thing forward, we need a high lottery pick in a good draft in order to pair with Barnes and Quigley and Barrett and all these guys, then what do you do to make sure that you're bad enough to be at that level next year? The guy to watch, I think, in all of this is Jakob Poeltl. He's the one guy, age-wise, that doesn't fit into this young core. He's a player that, while he's not doing all the sexy things on the floor and the numbers aren't necessarily going to reflect his value, we saw this year when he was out of the lineup how bad this team could be. If they were to trade him this summer, and I do think there's some value there, you could probably get a pick back, maybe a young player or two, then could that put them in a position where they could really tank next year? And ultimately, the biggest question of them all, is that what Masai wants to do?
Josh, Masai's talked about it, and you just mentioned as well the patience, and whether it's a 3 to 6 year plan or longer. Do you believe that the fan base, which is so loyal, and they fill the building, they support the team, do you think they have the stomach for the full ride here of this rebuild? Or, as you mentioned, Masai maybe wants to speed it up a bit. Is that because of the fan base, or is that more based on doing it the right way?
Yeah, that's a good question, too. I mean, I do think, like, let's give this fan base credit. Like, they get it. They understand where this team is and what it's going to take to get them back to where they need to be. If anything, it was large segments of this fan base that was clamoring for the Raptors to rebuild earlier. But with all of that said, it's the same thing as Masai or anybody else in terms of like patience with a really long and painful process. It's easy to say, oh yeah, okay, this is what we want when you're winning, but when you're actually in it, and watching some of these games that we had to, not fans could have turned off the TV at any point this year. I had to watch all of these games this year. I can tell you, it was not always easy. And again, like next year could be worse. It could be harder. So, yeah, I think despite the growth of basketball in this country and how strong this fan base is, it's still not the Leafs fan base. It's not as unconditional, I guess, in that way. I still think it's fickle, at least in terms of the arena presence. And I don't even blame the fan base in that regard. Like, the prices for tickets for this team are crazy, and they're only going up despite the fact that the team is getting worse. So if that's the case, if people stop showing up, if people start tuning out, then yeah, that could be additional pressure from Masai on top of whatever he's hearing from the guys, the people above him, to potentially expedite this process. And as I said, like that, it's a slippery slope. It's a dangerous game to play. I asked him today if he's studying other rebuilds around the league or in the league history, rebuilds that have been successful or unsuccessful. And he said, yeah, we've looked at all of them. The gold standard right now, obviously, is the Thunder, just in terms of like how quickly they've turned things around and improved to the point where they're the best team in the Western Conference right now. But like, it took some time. They were really bad. They had to shut Shea down at the end of a couple seasons, fake some injuries, which might be the case with Scotty Barnes in the year to come. They had to use their cap space in order to absorb bad salary and also maybe get some assets along the way, which is something that the Raptors could look at. And they had to make the right decisions and draft well, which is something that, hey, if the Raptors don't do that over the next couple of years, then who knows how long this is going to take.
Josh, congratulations on getting through that, buddy. It's been a grind this year. Now we wait to see where the lottery balls fall, and then we go from there. We'll chat well in advance of that. Thank you for doing this.
All right, guys. Talk soon. Take care.
Josh Lewenberg, our Raptors reporter, and they might have their pick this year, they might not. And they're going to be somewhat active. They got some upcoming free agents and team options they got to figure out. But yeah, 25 and 57. It's not going to be great next year. It's not going to be great. And the questions about Masai will be there. Keith Pelly coming in, Larry Tannenbaum's future. There's a lot in the air with the Raptors. Best bet still to come. RBC Heritage Open picks still to come, courtesy of TaylorMade. And Mark Masters live from Tampa on the lineup tonight for the Leafs and Leafs Bruins starting this weekend. Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and on TSN 2. All right, Mark Masters coming up from Tampa. Leafs Lightning tonight. Kucherov going for 100 assists. Matthews going for 70 goals. This could be a crazy game. It really, both teams know it's completely meaningless.
That's where you have some veteran big boys under the bleachers, like, just don't touch us. We're not going to just make it look like an NHL game. But what the fans don't realize is nobody cares.
Yeah.
Like, get through it.
Like, you can't have an agreement Matthews is going to score, Kucherov's going to get an assist.
No.
Obviously,
No.
that's some Jontay Porter type vibes. You can't do that. But it wouldn't. I think both teams would be happy to concede that. Like, if you could shake on it, give us 70 for Matthews, we'll give you 100 assists for Kuch. They'd both happily sign off on
But
that.
how do you...
You can't.
Goalies
No,
don't
of course you
care.
can't. You can't do that.
Like, Martin Jones isn't going, you know what? I really want Kucherov to get an assist. Believe me, I've been in these last games. I told you, I played in the day that Gretzky, it was his last game, and they televised it throughout the league. So we had a goodbye Gretzky. We were playing the LA Kings. I was with St. Louis, and there was a huge ceremony before the game. And I started that game, and the ref, I made a save. I was laying on my back, and the ref was yelling at me, move the puck. Like, it was like a 2-hour game. But Luke Robitaille, like, I'm not lying. Luke Robitaille had, I think, like 11 shots on net that day, that afternoon, because he needed a goal for a bonus. And he was yelling at me, Noodles, I need one. I'm like, what would you like me to do here? Like,
Right.
I'm not giving you a goal. And I knew he was shooting from everywhere, so I was kind of cheating to the shot because I'm like, this guy's trying to score. And I think I've told you about Yaroslav Modry made an $800,000 block on Pavel Demitra and Scott Young. Like they missed the bonus because Robitaille didn't get his bonus. Like, if I'm Matt Tompkins, not that you could cheat to it because Matthew scores in all different ways, but he knows Matthew's shooting tonight.
Absolutely.
If he gets a 2-on-1, he's shooting. You know what I mean?
He's coming over the board shooting, man. He gets a puck at the red line. He's going to take a shot.
I saw one worse. Two guys. One guy only needed an assist, or he only needed a point, and the other guy needed a goal for $250,000. So the one guy that had the puck, all he had to do was pass it over, let him put it in the net. Went into hero mode at the red line and just shot it himself. Did not even acknowledge the guy that needed a goal and missed. I've never seen grown-ass men and he knew the situation. It was explained.
Yeah.
Right.
God. Crazy.
Yeah, that one's tough to chew on. But no bonuses anymore in the cap era, as we know. So we got Mark Masters coming up here in a moment. Should we get some picks in here? Because there is some,
do it.
like, Scheffler's playing this week, man. I thought Scheffler had pulled out because he flew to Dallas to party where everyone else was going up to Hilton Head, but he's in town and he's ready to rock. OverDrive PGA Picks brought to you by TaylorMade, the all-new QI irons only from TaylorMade, designed for straight distance. Learn more at TaylorMadeGolf.ca.
Let's make a gentleman's agreement because I have a 7-pack that I think you would steer clear of because I have a better feel for these types of things and I'm on a heater right now.
Okay. What do you say? You want to name 7? Well, if Scheffler's included in that, then
it isn't.
Deal's off. But
no, it isn't. I'm gifting him to you.
I don't think he's going to win this week because he's partying.
That's why I'm gifting him to you. But I am going to gift him to you. I have got Max Homa. I've got Fitzy with the Skechers, okay?
Back to back for Fitzy with the red jacket. I mean, okay, all right. He loves that track.
I've got Jordan Spieth, who loves that track.
Yes, he does.
And you know who else does? That big Irishman with the beard, Shane Lowry.
With his black on black with white shoes. He's always got the same gear.
Dude, I think he wears that every day.
Every day.
He brings that shirt and pants in his golf bag, and he has no other clothes. And that's all he wears.
Yeah. Okay.
Corey Connors, Tom Kim, and my main man from my winter home down in Georgia, the postman. JT Poston.
Ooh, JT. I thought you were going to say Zach Johnson, your boy.
Dude, he needs a PR tour, man. He needs to just get some things off his chest. Come clean, apologize, because that presser he had was redonk.
Outrageous.
Outrageous.
What
were your? What are you guys even referring to? The fans said
I don't understand. What are they saying? I said, yeah, okay, dude.
But you know what that fan base is like for anyone that gets that online. Now they're going to hate his guts.
Oh, he's toast, man.
Dude,
he's toast because of the Ryder Cup, Waste Man.
They'll start jeering in his backswing and stuff.
Yeah.
Like they're going to start giving it to him.
Yeah, exactly. It's really he's got a real problem on his hands. All right, I have to take Scheffler clearly. Got to take Scheffler. You're basically leaving me all the favorites here. Scheffler, Ludwig.
Just do it. Take them all,
Ludwig, dude. Xander, Will Zalatoris, Wyndham Clark. That's 5. Fine. Just give me Rory and Morikawa. It's just like every favorite. Well, I mean, I'm looking at all these favorites on FanDuel here. I'm like, I kind of like my guy Tommy Fleetwood, too. He played well last week.
That would have been a sexy pick. I'll give him to you if you give me one more.
I'll take Fleetwood for an 8-pack.
I'm going to do the bull-legged Rusty Henley. I think he
Russell Henley, good pick.
Rusty Henley with that walk and those size 14 sneakers, I think he could do some damage out there.
Yeah. Did you see the sleds on VJ at the Masters last week?
Dude, he has got Kilimanjaro walking boots.
He does. He's got mountain climbers. And it was wild to see him walk around that place.
Did you see it live? You saw him live?
Yeah, I saw him live. You know what was wild? One of the most serene, coolest moments of the whole weekend was on the range Saturday morning. I grabbed a coffee, grabbed something to eat, and we got in the seats. Lawrence Applebaum was running things. He's like, get you in here, get you in there. So we all got in there. We all sat down, and Rory was on. Rory and Mickelson were side by side on the range. It was incredible. You're watching Rory and Mickelson do their thing. They didn't even acknowledge each other.
Not even one comment each.
Not one comment. Like,
really?
Just Rory walked right. They were right beside each other.
Well, that might have been more than live, and they might just hate each other.
They might just in generally not like each other. I'm pretty sure both of them don't. And all the way at the end of the range was Vijay Singh. There were 20 stalls at the range, and then Vijay at the end.
With his Kilimanjaro boots that are blue and orange and yellow. Look at
those shoes.
Where the hell is he going in those things?
I don't know, man. He's hiking. He's hiking and playing golf. But he made the weekend, Vijay, which was incredible. And my boy Jose Maria Olazabal, who I gift wrapped Scheffler on the trivia because I said Jose Maria Olazabal instead of Jack Nicklaus. The dumbest things I've said on this show.
Get
Jose
that guy,
made the weekend too.
Donnie, call him and get him some G4 slippers and get them on him because those things. It looks like he's jogging the course and then he just circles back to the first tee and grabs a driver and then plays.
Right, exactly.
Those
like
are
he's out
awful
for a jog.
golf shoes.
Yeah, get him a pair of G4s. Get him the new Gallivant Tours. Like something's got to give here. OverDrive PGA picks brought to you by TaylorMade, the all-new QI irons only from TaylorMade, designed for straight distance. Learn more at TaylorMadeGolf.ca. I tried out the new TP5s for the first time. It's just an unbelievable golf ball.
How was your game, by the way? Was any rust?
No, I played really well. I had the QI 10 out. I had the 3-wood. I shot 82. Wow. I birdied 18. I had a caddy. I have to tell you off the air what this cat was all about. His nickname was Red Bull. I'll tell you about his antics at some point. I'll bring it to the show. I can't say anything this guy said to me because he was the most offensive person on earth. Every comment was wild what this guy was saying.
Wow.
I can't say anything on the air. I cannot give you one line that this guy had, but I'll tell you some of them off the air and I'll try to G-rate it one day.
Like he was carving you on the course?
No, he had analogies for how putts were going to break. Like
Deep South analogies.
Yes, and it would be, I'm going to call this one a Miley Cyrus, and then he'd go and be like, whoa. Like he'd have analogies that were wild. Anyway, Leafs Lightning tonight. Game 82 of the regular season. Playoffs beginning in Boston. Did Mark Masters pack shorts and a T-shirt exclusively to Florida, thinking he'd stay down there for the week? Or did he bring a parka because he's off to Boston? Here he is now, our Maple Leaf reporter. What was the packing situation like for you, Mark?
You know, I added a coat at the last minute. I was talking with my wife, and I was, it's a long trip, and you kind of thought it's going to be Florida. And I was like, you know what? It could still be Boston. And so at the last minute, I'd already zipped up the bag. I said, I got to take a coat. And considering it's getting down to like 5 degrees at night in Boston later this week, I'm happy I did.
Mark, what do you think the reaction of the Leaf players was when they found out it was going to be Boston? Very similar teams. It's not like one would be less of a break, but what do you think their true initial instincts were finding out it was the Bruins?
Yeah, I mean, it's impossible to know. When we talked to them, it was right after the game last night. And obviously they had a sour taste in their mouth because of how that went. So, they didn't really have too many, cohesive thoughts on it. And we didn't talk to any players before the game today. I think that they probably feel the same way as Boston, is they're fine with it. Like they feel like they can win that series. They think they can beat Florida too. But, I think they're fine with it. I don't think they're worried about it. I think they're ready to get going just like all of us.
Mark, if Matthews scored a 70 last night, do you think he plays tonight? Or, was that a planned thing? Or because Sheldon's downplaying it, but we all know, you're giving him an opportunity, just like Kucherov playing tonight, too. Did you get a sense of that? If he scored it last night, he would have got the night off tonight?
I mean, Sheldon Keefe says no. He says that on the list of guys he would have rested, if he could have rested more guys today, Matthews isn't at the top of the list. So you're thinking maybe he would have preferred to sit 33-year-old John Tavares tonight. William Nylander, who also could get a milestone tonight. He's played every game, so if you're looking at guys who maybe could benefit from a rest, maybe he's ahead of Matthews on that list. But he said, Matthews is playing good. He's feeling good. He sees no reason to take him out. Well, we just look at the precedent of recent years. Matthews has been rested in one game late in each of the last two seasons. That's what they've wanted to do. Now, the GM has changed, so maybe the thinking has changed. But if we take it for his word, that was Matthews is never going to get rested. But they could have done it, and they've decided not to.
So, injury update. Sheldon Keefe was speaking on Domi, Yarncroke, Bobby McMahon. Said they're all possibilities for Game 1. Are you buying that, or is that playoff speak?
I don't buy anything injury-wise right now with him, especially when he's talking about three different guys. You really got to hammer it, I think, down on. If you want to try and get an answer on injuries, you really got to hammer it down on one guy. I can tell you, Yarncroke and Domi skated this morning. That's the first time I saw Domi on the ice in Saturday's game. I think that those guys are more of a possibility than Bobby McMahon. It sure feels like McMahon it's going to be tough to see him in Game 1. And then hopefully he's available at some point, just the way he left the game, the way they ruled him out of the last two regular season games immediately, and the fact that we haven't seen him at all. So I would say at least Yarncroke and Domi, it feels like, especially Domi played in that game Saturday, feels like there's a possibility we're going to see those guys on Saturday.
Masters Nation, you've heard everything after series have ended on the negative side for the Maple Leafs. Being around them every single day of the year, do you have any reason to believe that things would be different and they could do something different as opposed to the letdown that you've seen in the past, the letdowns?
Yes, listen, there's for sure. Matthews has never been this good. Nylander, even though he's gone quiet of late, has never been come off a season like this. Marner's on a bit of a roll coming back. Even Tavares is starting to get on the score sheet a bit more of late. And they got the new guys. Domi, you're hoping he's healthy, but Bertuzzi, this is a bit of a different element. The concerns are there for sure with the defense and the goaltending. And there are those demons that continue to lurk in the shadows. But there is reason to believe it will be different. Until you see it, you won't really believe it, I don't think. If you're a Leafs fan or covering the team even, you want to see it before you believe it. But there is reason at least to believe it can be different this year.
With Mark Masters, Leafs Tampa tonight, Game 1 believed to be in Boston Saturday night. If Domi does return, and we believe he will, if he can play, he's obviously going to get in there. We've seen Marner back with Matthews, though. What do you make of that connection? Obviously, there's a long history of it in the past, but is your belief that if Domi does return for Game 1, it's a foregone conclusion, Bertuzzi, Matthews, Domi will reunite as the top line?
I think so. We won't know for sure until Friday's practice, but I think so. Sheldon Keefe says it's a real thing. This isn't a short-term thing. He likes, Domi, Matthews, Bertuzzi. They've been dominant, and he likes what it does to the entire lineup, that he can spread it out. He can start Nylander on the third line and then also move Nylander up with Tavares and Marner to kind of have this kind of loaded up line and go to that. I think especially with them starting on the road for the first time in the Sheldon Keefe era, he doesn't have to worry about matching lines. That's going to be, obviously he'll be looking to exploit matchups when he can off icings and whatnot, but he doesn't. That will be a different thing for Sheldon Keefe. Every other series he's been an NHL coach in, Game 1, he's set the tone with matchups. Now he can kind of take a different tack. So I just based on how it's gone down the stretch, it feels like he wants to go with the spread offense look. I'm not sure if anything we'll see in these last couple of games will change that, but it sure feels like that's what he wants to do for Game 1, at least to start.
Yeah, it feels like it's moving in that direction. Before we get you out of here on defense, TJ Brodie's been, he's been here for a long time. He's been a big part of what this team's done. His spot in the lineup has never been up for question. It is now. Do you believe he's trending towards being a healthy scratch come Game 1? How does TJ Brodie play into Keefe's plans for the playoffs?
Yeah, it looks like he's on the outside looking in right now. We're just going by based on the fact that he was scratched in that game last night, that he wasn't part of that six. It looked like what we saw last night is kind of ideally what they would go with. Liljegren is a right shot, a natural right shot. They like that. Riley and Labushkin, they've liked that. And certainly Benoit, who was kind of the odd man out after the deadline, you can't take him out now. They like how that works with McCabe. So unless you feel you need Brodie in, especially for the penalty kill, it just feels like right now he's the odd man out. I don't know, maybe he was dealing with something that needed an extra day, but the fact that he's one of the three guys who didn't play in that game in Florida, which really felt like the real tune-up for them, to me says that he's on the outside looking in right now. And it's a remarkable haul for him this season. Absolutely. He's one of their most, trusted, reliable guys. And now that he's not on, he's on the outside looking in, that's quite a development this season.
Yeah, it sure is. Game 82 tonight. Good luck getting up to Boston, and we'll do this again soon. Thank you, Mark.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
Mark Masters, veteran move, grabs a jacket on the way out.
By the way, Brodie, that overtime play where he just tossed it in the corner against Detroit and then just stood there and covered no one and then let the guy score. I don't think that did him any favors.
No, it definitely did. Listen, he's had a really tough year. Like, there's no other way to describe it. He's had a really, really difficult year.
Yeah, he has.
And he's a free agent at the end of the year. This could be the last game he plays for the Leafs. Who knows? I mean, I would think he'll get his way in. If they go on a long run, he's going to play for sure. There's going to be changes. There's going to be injuries. And if he gets in, listen, he's got to just revert to where he was a year ago, not 5 years ago, not 10 years ago. He's got to try to find his game. But it's been a really tough run for him, and it's difficult to get a read on how the Leafs have come down the stretch. The same thing with Boston. The Bruins, the last two games, they've been terrible. Like they were awful against Washington. You saw it up close and personal against Ottawa Noodles. The Leafs haven't been great the last few games, but prior to these three games, they had been for like 3 months. Like really a good chugging team moving in the right direction. So I think it's more just a malaise at the end of the year. Get it over with. Let's move on. Let's get to the playoffs. And I don't know how that sets up for tonight outside of milestones, outside of Matthews and Kucherov going for a massive milestone. And what's crazy is Matthews could score 70 tonight. Kucherov could hit 100 assists. McDavid is already at 100 assists. And it's likely one of them will not even be a finalist for the Hart because
have we clarified that, Hayes? Like, there's only three guys, right?
Three guys. If there's an award show, there's three guys. Like you
you vote for five. I've got the ballot the other day. You vote for five, but the top three are the finalists.
Right.
That's what it is, So
that's scary, man. It's going to be a fascinating vote
because McKinnon's there too, and I don't think McKinnon's either one or two on everybody's ballot.
My sense is that he wins it.
It seems like that's where it's moving, and for a variety of reasons, including merit, because he's played so well, and he's such a good player. But that if that's the case, let's say McKinnon wins, then there's going to be someone with 100 assists or possibly 70 goals that doesn't even get a finalist role, like isn't even invited to the awards if they have the award show, which is pretty wild when you think about it. All right, Best Bets brought to you by FanDuel, still to come. OverDrive continues, TSN 1050 and on the TSN app. All right, today's Best Bets are powered by FanDuel. Make your picks and assemble a same-game parlay in seconds on the FanDuel Sportsbook app. Matthews to record 5+ shots tonight. He's going to come out firing. He might hit 10 or 12 shots on goal tonight. Over the number, 6.5 total goals. And, yes, a goal in the first 10 minutes tonight, the first period. I think it's going to be an old school. You got Martin Jones playing. You got Tompkins playing. Both teams know that they're going to the playoffs. No hitter tonight. A lot of open ice. Today's Best Bets are powered by FanDuel. Download the FanDuel Sportsbook app today and find thousands of ways to play. Please play responsibly. 19 plus and physically located in Ontario. The Jays were up. They were up. They had a game. It was 4-1 going into the 8th inning on the Yankees. A chance to sweep, and the bullpen fell apart. They ended up losing 6-4. John Schneider is taking a ton of heat. Swanson has not pitched all season, and he made a debut in a high-leverage situation in the 8th inning, and he got torched. And now Schneider is getting crushed. He left Meza in to face Aaron Judge for some reason, and Judge took him for 2 down the left field line. Just basically a complete debacle in terms of running your bullpen by John Schneider.
Are they
throw
10
away
and 9
again.
now? Are they 10 and 9 now?
Yeah,
Is
they're
that
10 and 9
make
after
them?
that,
Yeah.
I believe. Yeah, maybe
Yeah.
10 and 9, I believe. Yeah, they came in
Yeah.
9 and 8, I think. But they had won the first 2 games of the series, right? Like yesterday was another really clutch performance. Kikuchi's unbelievable. His stuff has been great. Like that guy, you talk about a scenario 2 years ago. That's who Alec Manoah needs to meet up with. Go talk to
Right.
Kikuchi and be like, dude, how do I get out of this? Because he's been great. Barrios the same thing, and he was in a similar spot 2 years ago. Vladdy had a big clutch hit last night, and today again they're up 4-1 going into the 8th inning. Chance to sweep the Yankees, and the bullpen falls apart late.
Let's be honest. Schneider's going to get just crushed after every loss. Like anything that happens, he's going to get. Like you got to go in there and do a job. He picks a guy, someone picks the guy, whatever. Schneider, if anything goes wrong, he's getting crushed.
Yeah, that's kind of, and that's what the bullpen though is. Like Schneider's going to run out the lineup that the front office tells him to run out. You know, he takes the bullets. Why isn't this guy playing? Why is that order? But in the bullpen, like when he maybe pulls a guy, could be driven based on analytics, but situations, that's still on him. Like there, you can't isolate how the manager utilizes his bullpen. It's really one of the only things left in baseball that has been consistent for 120 years. You know, they've adjusted some of it because you can't pull out a guy off, you know, after one pitch or one out, he's got to face a certain amount of batters or he's got to close out an inning. They have tried to get away from constantly going to the bullpen, but it's still on him to make the call. Who you go with, how long you keep him in, what the game plan is against certain hitters. Why are you giving Aaron Judge anything he can hit? Why are you leaving Meza in, lefty on righty? You know, and obviously it burned them today. But still, you took big picture. You take 2 of 3 against the Yankees. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
Right? That's pretty good. Now they're off tomorrow. They're in San Diego starting on Friday night, so they hit the West Coast. But you're above 500. You know, it hasn't been perfect, but we'll see what comes of the Jays. As for, the Leafs, again, they're in action tonight and off to Boston on Saturday. Off to Boston.
I just don't know where my head's at. I always think of it at the beginning. I'm always like, this is a great opportunity is what it is, right? It's a good team. It's a rival. They've owned you, and you got to just step up and get it done. And I think I've said that.
We said that
for
4
years in a row. All right, where it's just everything. It's all, like everyone's intimidated. It's like, oh man, you have a good season, you either get Boston or Florida. So everyone else has got to deal with that too, except that maybe the New York Rangers are like, we're probably not that scared of the Caps right now. So you got to heater the first round. It's like you got to do it. And you got to win. You got to step up and play better.
Yeah, you're right. You think Colorado and Winnipeg are ecstatic to play each other? Edmonton and Vegas, if that happens?
Yeah.
No, but Boston and or Florida and Tampa. You think Florida wants to play the team that's owned them for 20 years in that state?
Yeah.
You know, like that's
there's a potential upset right there. I'll tell you.
I agree,
Tampa,
especially.
Tampa spanked them a
live
couple
last week.
times this year.
Well, the last game they played, I happened to watch it on TV. Florida outshot them. I think it was 53-18, and Tampa won because John Wick was like, "I'm back," and it was Florida. Like the ice was tilted, but they weren't beating the goalie. And I think the game was like 5-4, 4-3, or whatever. But it was. Like Tampa, just there's certain teams are like you're intimidated by the goalie, you're intimidated by the players, all of that type of stuff. And I think Tampa has Florida's number, but again, they've got stuff to prove. Boston got stuff to prove. The Leafs have stuff to prove. There's lots of teams. Edmonton, McDavid wants something to prove. Like you go right down it. There's a storyline for everybody. It'll be interesting to see who steps up and gets it done.
Yep, absolutely. I mean, Vegas are the champs. Can they do it again?
Yeah.
Who are they going to play? How healthy are they going to be? But yeah, you can look at pretty much outside of Washington. I would say the Islanders as well. Who are probably feel just fortunate to be in, considering where they've been basically all season. Doesn't mean they can't do some damage, but I don't think anyone's expecting a cup run. I think that would be very, very surprising. Everyone else is probably thinking to themselves, we can do this. Why not us? Why can't we go on a run here? And There's going to be a variety of things that play into it: goaltending, health, luck. You got to get some lucky bounces too, right? Some things got to break your way. That's the nature of the beast. And I can't wait. I mean, I think I can speak for all of us. After tonight, you got tomorrow, then it's go time. But for the Leafs and the Bruins, as of tomorrow, it's basically a full tee-up for the rest of this week. So we look forward to that. And, again, the Jays are off tomorrow, back in action on Friday. The RBC Heritage Open starts tomorrow. We had our picks earlier this hour, a very reasonable 8-pack. So we'll be tracking them. We'll see
Very
what comes of it.
reasonable 8-pack.
Very
If we don't get a
reasonable.
winner out of that. But that's the
Good
kind
field.
of tournament somebody will come from the back of the
Good
pack.
field, man.
Sepp
Really good
Straka will dominate.
Seppi will.
Before we go, this is for you,
Yes. There you go. Heart.
But look at my screen.
Yeah, there it is. The
Doug
hearts.
Gilbert.
Yeah, there it is. All right. Thanks to everyone behind the scenes. Our boy Owen stepping in for Doogie today, doing a great job. Great
Owen
job,
Power,
JP.
legend.
Owen Power, JP, Joe from the Bridge, everyone behind the scenes for helping out, everyone for tuning in today, TV, radio, podcast, web. We appreciate that. We're out of here. Enjoy your evenings. Enjoy the games tonight. We're back tomorrow at
Heart Guy, you're a clown and you're fired. 4 p.m.
We'll chat then.